The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, my sister Victoria's name printed in elegant script beside someone named Marcus Chen. I didn't know him. Nobody had told me she was even dating seriously. But there it was, you are cordially invited, like I was a distant relative instead of her only sister. I held the envelope under my desk lamp, searching for something personal. A handwritten note. A phone call that should have come first. Anything. But it was just formal, cold, and mailed like bills. My name was spelled wrong too, Sofia instead of Sofia. Small detail. It still hurt. Mom called that evening, not to check in, not to hear my voice, just to confirm I'd received it and remind me to dress appropriately. Her tone carried that familiar warning, don't embarrass us, don't be yourself, don't exist too loudly. I said I'd be there. She hung up before I could say anything else. That night I lay awake wondering why I still tried, why I kept showing up to spaces that clearly didn't want me. Maybe blood was supposed to be thicker than rejection. Maybe I was just stubborn. Growing up, Victoria was golden, straight A's without trying, cheerleader, homecoming queen. Everything she touched turned into applause. I was the opposite. I read too much, asked too many questions, got called difficult when I challenged things. By high school, the difference was clear. She was the daughter they bragged about. I was the one they explained away. Sofia's just finding herself, Mom would say, voice tight with disappointment, like I was a problem to solve instead of a person to know. Dad was quieter about it, but his silence said enough. He attended all of Victoria's events. Mine he missed. Work, he'd say, always work. College was supposed to change things. I got into a decent school, started studying psychology, but sophomore year Dad got sick. Cancer. Mom called me home not to help, just to witness. Victoria stayed at her university. She had opportunities that couldn't be interrupted. I dropped out, came back and watched him fade. He died that winter. At the funeral, people hugged Victoria first. I stood behind her, invisible as always. Afterward, I tried going back to school, but the money was gone. Mom said we couldn't afford it for both of us. Victoria needed to finish. She was almost done. She had potential. I understood what that meant. I got a job at a call center instead, answering complaints 8 hours a day, swallowing my own. The morning of the wedding, I woke up at 5, couldn't sleep. The dress I'd bought hung on my closet door, navy blue, simple, from a clearance rack. I'd tried on 15 dresses at 3 different stores. Everything either didn't fit right or cost too much. This one was fine, just fine. Mom would probably call it drab. I didn't care. At least that's what I told myself. I showered, dried my hair, applied makeup carefully. Not too much, not too little. The balance I'd learned to survive in my family, visible enough not to be criticized for not trying, invisible enough not to draw attention. I looked at myself in the mirror and practiced smiling. The face looking back seemed tired, 24 years old and already exhausted. I grabbed my purse and left before doubt could pin me down. The venue was an hour away. Some countryside estate that probably cost more than my annual salary to rent for one day. I drove with the windows down, letting cold air shock me awake. The GPS led me through winding roads lined with maple trees just beginning to turn colors. Beautiful, the kind of setting Victoria deserved, the kind I'd never have. I arrived exactly on time, not early enough to seem eager, not late enough to be rude. The parking lot was already filling with expensive cars, BMWs, Teslas, a Mercedes with custom plates. I parked my 12-year-old Honda Civic at the far edge, away from the luxury lineup. Walking toward the entrance, I could feel the difference in my shoes. They were 2 years old, comfortable but worn. Everyone else's heels were brand new, clicking with confidence I'd never learned. The estate glowed ahead. White columns, flower arrangements the size of small trees, string lights woven through everything like stars decided to live on Earth. A woman in a headset directed guests toward the ceremony space. I followed the crowd, keeping my head down, hands clasped around my small purse. Groups of people laughed loudly, hugging, taking photos. I recognized some faces from old family gatherings. None of them recognized me, or they pretended not to. Same result either way. Sofia, a voice cut through, my cousin Amanda. She wore a pink dress that probably cost what I made in a month. Her smile was polite, distant. I almost didn't recognize you, it's been so long. 2 years, we'd seen each other 2 years ago at Thanksgiving, but I smiled and agreed. Yeah, you look great. Thanks, you too. Her eyes said otherwise. Victoria's inside doing photos, it's going to be beautiful, she's so happy. Then she turned and rejoined her group, leaving me standing alone in the middle of the pathway. I kept walking. Inside, the venue was even more overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere. Gold accents on every table. A string quartet playing something classical and expensive. Guests were already seated, murmuring softly, dressed like they'd walked out of magazines. I spotted the seating chart near the entrance. A large board with names written in calligraphy, organized by table numbers. I scanned for my name. Table 1, Victoria's college friends. Table 2, Marcus's family. Table 3, Mom's side of the family. I kept reading. Table 7, Table 10. My stomach tightened. Table 14, there it was. Sofia Martinez by itself, one name tucked in the back corner behind a structural pillar near the kitchen doors. I looked around. Every other table had clusters of names. Couples, friend groups, families. Mine had one, just me. A hand touched my elbow. I turned. Mom stood there, wrapped in champagne silk, hair styled perfectly, smile plastered on like wallpaper. Sofia, you made it. Not I'm glad you're here, just acknowledgement, like checking off a box. Her eyes scanned me quickly. The dress, the shoes, the hair. I watched her face tighten. Disappointment registered in half a second. You're early. The invitation said 4 guests, family should arrive earlier. She glanced around, making sure no one important was watching. Then she leaned in, voice dropping. Please just try to blend in today. This is Victoria's day. I wanted to ask what she thought I was planning to do. Stand up during vows, object dramatically, wear white. But I just nodded. She walked away, heels clicking purposefully toward a group of well-dressed strangers. I was dismissed. I made my way to table 14. The chair was cold metal dressed up with white fabric. The view was partially blocked. From here I could see maybe half the ceremony arch. The rest was hidden behind that pillar. Perfect. Even the seating arrangement wanted me out of frame. I sat down and waited. Alone, guests continued filing in. Laughter bubbled up from the front rows, hugs, kisses on cheeks, photos. Everyone belonged to someone. I checked my phone. Nothing, no messages, no missed calls, just the time. 4:23 p.m. The ceremony would start in 7 minutes. I watched people settle into their seats, adjusting dresses, fixing ties, whispering excitedly. A little girl in a flower crown skipped down the aisle, practicing. Her parents beamed from table 4. I wondered what it felt like to be looked at like that. Like you were magic just for existing. The quartet shifted into something softer. Pre-ceremony music, the energy changed, voices lowered, anticipation built. I felt like a ghost watching life happen behind glass, present but not participating. Breathing but not alive, the officiant took his place. Marcus appeared with his groomsmen, all matching navy suits, crisp white shirts. He looked nervous, happy, the way grooms should look. Then the music swelled, everyone stood. I stood too, half a second late, and there she was, Victoria, walking down the aisle on Mom's arm. Dad was gone, so Mom took his place. Victoria looked like a dream, white lace dress, hair cascading in perfect waves, bouquet of white peonies. She glowed, literally glowed. Like someone had photoshopped her into real life. I watched Mom's face as they walked. Pride, pure, unfiltered pride. The kind I'd seen in old photos but never directed at me. They passed my table without even a glance. Victoria's eyes were locked on Marcus. Mom's were scanning the crowd, making sure everyone saw her perfect daughter. I might as well have been furniture. When they reached the front, Mom took her seat in the first row. Center. Reserved. I remained standing with everyone else until Victoria reached the arch. The ceremony began. Traditional vows, readings about love conquering all, promises exchanged, rings slipped on. I watched it like a movie. Distant, someone else's story. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone erupted in applause. I clapped too, automatic. My hands moved but my heart stayed still. They walked back down the aisle together. Married, beaming, the crowd roared. I sat down before everyone else, suddenly exhausted. Cocktail hour was worse, everyone mingled. I stood near a corner with a glass of water, watching. Groups formed and reformed like living organisms. Laughter bounced around the room. Victoria and Marcus worked the crowd, hugging, thanking people, posing for photos. I waited for her to look my way, to acknowledge me, to remember I existed. She never did, not once. Maybe she genuinely didn't see me. Maybe she chose not to. Result felt the same. An uncle approached. Uncle Robert, Dad's brother. He nodded at me. "Sofia, how have you been?" "Good, you." "Can't complain, working too much, you know how it is." He took a sip of his drink. "Still at that call center?" "Yeah, that single sound carried judgment." "Well, keep at it, I guess. Victoria's doing amazing, marketing director already, 26 and already crushing it." "That's great. You ever think about finishing school?" My throat tightened. "Money's tight." "Right, well, maybe someday." He patted my shoulder and walked away. I wanted to scream that I'd left school to be there when Dad died, that I'd worked double shifts to help with medical bills, that nobody thanked me, but I swallowed it down like always, kept smiling, kept quiet. Dinner was announced, everyone found their seats. I returned to table 14, the other chairs remained empty. For a moment I thought maybe someone would join me, but no, the table stayed solo. Around me tables buzzed with conversation. Clinking glasses shared stories. I ate quietly. The food was incredible. Herb-crusted salmon, roasted vegetables, some kind of fancy potato. I barely tasted it, just chewed and swallowed, going through motions. Crossed the room, Mom sat at table 1 with Victoria's closest friends. She laughed loudly at something. I watched her. Animated, engaged, the version of her I rarely saw. When she was around me she was tight, controlled, disappointed. But there, surrounded by people who mattered, she was different. Lighter. It occurred to me then that maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe I just reminded her of something she wanted to forget. Failure, ordinariness, the daughter who didn't turn out right. A waiter refilled my water. I thanked him. He was the only person who'd spoken to me in an hour. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. I thought about leaving early, sneaking out, but that would cause questions, drama. Mom would be furious. So I stayed, trapped in a corner, visible enough to fulfill obligation, invisible enough to be forgotten. The speeches started. The best man went first. Funny stories about Marcus, college adventures, bad haircuts. Everyone laughed. Then the maid of honor, Victoria's best friend since middle school. She talked about their friendship, inside jokes, late-night conversations, how perfect Marcus was for Victoria, how they were meant to be, tears and laughter. The room ate it up. Then Mom stood. My chest tightened. I want to thank everyone for being here, Mom began, voice steady, confident. Today is a celebration of love, family, and the future. She talked about Victoria's childhood, her achievements, her kindness, her light. Every sentence was praise, every word was pride. She mentioned Marcus's family, his parents, his sister. She thanked the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, the planner, the venue staff. She listed names, specific people, specific gratitude. My name never came, not once, not even in passing, not even a generic, and all our family. I sat frozen. Around me people smiled, nodded, sipped drinks. Normal, for them this was normal. For me it was confirmation, written in silence. I didn't matter, not even worth mentioning. Mom finished her speech to applause. She hugged Victoria. They both cried happy tears. I stared at my empty plate and counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3, don't cry. 4, 5, 6, don't react. 7, 8, 9, don't exist. After dinner music started, the first dance. Victoria and Marcus swayed under soft lights while a singer performed some romantic ballad. Everyone watched, phones up, recording, capturing the moment. Then the parent dances. Marcus danced with his mom, sweet, tender. Then Victoria danced with Mom. The song was one Mom used to sing when we were kids. I remembered that. She used to sing it to both of us. Now it was just Victoria's song. They smiled at each other. Mom whispered something. Victoria laughed. The photographer circled them, flash after flash. Freezing a memory I wasn't part of. When the song ended, the DJ invited everyone to the dance floor. Upbeat music, lights, energy shifted. People flooded the floor. I stayed seated, watched from my corner. Victoria danced with her friends. Mom danced with uncles and family friends. Everyone moved, everyone belonged. I sipped water and checked the time. 8:47 p.m. How much longer until I could leave? An hour, 2. I decided to wait until cake. After cake I could slip out, nobody would notice, but then the photographer's voice boomed over the music. Family photos, immediate family to the front, please. My body moved before my brain caught up. Reflex, habit, hope maybe. I stood and walked toward the photo area. A decorated backdrop, professional lights. Victoria and Marcus stood center. Mom joined them, Marcus's parents, his sister. The photographer arranged everyone. I approached the edge of the group, waiting, ready to be included. Mom saw me, our eyes met. For 1 second I thought I saw something, hesitation, regret. But then her face smoothed into that practiced smile, the one she used with strangers. She stepped toward me, hand out like she might touch my arm. But she didn't. She stopped just short. Her voice was low, controlled, so only I could hear. Sofia, maybe sit this one out, it's just for immediate family. Time slowed, those words, just for immediate family. I am immediate family, I'm her daughter, Victoria's sister. But I stood there, frozen, while Mom's smile never broke. She turned back to the group. The photographer adjusted angles, everyone smiled. I backed away. 1 step. Then another. My legs felt disconnected. My chest burned, but my face stayed neutral. I'd learned that young, how to hurt without showing it, how to break quietly. I walked backwards until I hit my table. Sat down. The music was too loud, the lights too bright, everything was too much. Nobody followed me, nobody checked if I was okay. The photos continued without me. Click, 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 perfect family, perfect daughter, perfect day. I wasn't ruining anything by being absent. I was completing the picture by removing myself from it. That was my role. The one nobody had to say out loud but everyone understood. I wasn't part of the story. I was the part they edited out. I counted to 60. Then I stood, grabbed my purse, and walked, not toward the exit, toward the back, through a service door. into a hallway that smelled like industrial cleaner and catering food. Staff bustled around, carrying trays, organizing desserts. Nobody stopped me. I pushed through another door and found myself outside. The back patio, empty, cold, dark except for string lights someone forgot to turn off. I walked to the edge. A railing overlooked gardens. The moon was nearly full, bright enough to see by. Music thumped behind me, muffled by walls, laughter, celebration. Life. I stood there breathing cold air, letting it fill my lungs, sharp and clean. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A text from Amanda. "Where'd you go? Missed you in the photos. Miss me, sure." I didn't reply. I thought about leaving. Getting in my car, driving home, never looking back, but something kept me there. Not hope, just stubbornness, the need to see it through, to prove I could survive it. I leaned against the railing and closed my eyes. Inside my head I made a list, every time I'd been overlooked, every moment I'd been told to shrink, every space I'd been removed from. The list was long, exhausting. And suddenly, standing there in the cold, something shifted. Not dramatic. Not loud, just quiet and certain. I was done. I didn't return to the reception. I walked around the building to the parking lot, found my car, got in, sat there for a moment with the keys in my hand. The engine was cold, the seats were cold, everything was cold. But something warm was building in my chest, not anger, clarity. I started the car and drove, not home, just away. I drove until the estate disappeared in my rearview mirror, until the roads turned from country lanes to highway. Until the radio played something I'd never heard before and I could breathe without measuring it. I pulled into a gas station, bought coffee I didn't want, stood under fluorescent lights and made a decision. I wasn't going back, not to the reception, not to the family, not to that version of myself that kept begging for crumbs. I was done, finished. The wedding could continue without me. It already had been, I'd just made it official. I drove the rest of the way home in silence. Parked. Climbed the stairs to my apartment, unlocked the door, and closed it behind me like sealing a chapter. That night I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just sat on my floor with my laptop and started searching. Apartments in different cities, job listings, online courses, anything that looked like a door instead of a wall. By morning I'd applied to 15 positions, enrolled in 3 free certifications, and drafted an email I'd send to Mom eventually, not yet, but soon, when I was ready. When I had something to say beyond hurt. 2 weeks later I gave notice at the call center. My manager seemed surprised. I'd been reliable, consistent, boring, but reliable. I told him I was pursuing other opportunities. He wished me luck. I packed my cubicle. 3 years of work fit into one cardboard box. Photos I'd never looked at. A mug someone gave me for Christmas, pens. I threw most of it away, kept nothing. Starting fresh meant leaving weight behind. I found a new apartment across the state. Smaller, cheaper, but mine, just mine, no family nearby, no history, nobody who knew the old me. I packed everything I owned into my car, 2 trips, that's all it took. My whole life fit in a Honda Civic. On the drive I called Mom, she answered on the 4th ring. "Sofia, is everything okay?" "I'm moving." Silence, then, "Moving where?" "Away." "What does that mean? What about your job?" "I quit." Another silence, longer. "Why would you do that?" "Sofia, you can't just." "I can, I am. This is about the wedding, isn't it?" Her voice tightened. "You're being dramatic." Almost laughed. "Dramatic for leaving, not for being erased." "I'm not being dramatic, I'm being honest. I don't fit there. You made that clear, so I'm going somewhere I do." "Sofia, I'll call you when I'm settled." I hung up, my hands shook, but I kept driving. The new city was mid-sized, not too big, not too small. I didn't know anyone. That was the point. I moved into a studio apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, one window that faced east. Morning light poured in. I bought a mattress, a desk, a chair. That was it. I didn't need more. I spent the first week walking the city, learning streets, finding coffee shops, libraries, parks, places that felt safe, anonymous. Free. I started freelancing, graphic design, something I'd taught myself years ago but never pursued. I built a portfolio, reached out to small businesses, offered low rates, just enough to survive. The first client was a local bakery. They needed a logo. I designed 3 options. They picked one, paid me $200. It felt like $1 million. Not because of the amount, because I'd earned it myself, with my skills, my effort. Nobody handed it to me. Nobody took credit. It was mine. Slowly more work came. A website here, a flyer there, social media graphics, nothing glamorous but consistent. I worked late nights, early mornings, taught myself coding, video editing, marketing, everything I could find free online. YouTube became my university. I took notes, practiced, failed, tried again. Nobody was watching. Nobody was judging. Just me and the work. It was exhausting, it was terrifying, it was the freest I'd ever been. 6 months in, I landed a bigger client, a startup. They needed a full brand package. Logo, website, marketing materials. It was more than I'd ever done. I almost said no. Imposter syndrome screamed that I wasn't qualified, but I remembered that wedding, that table, that silence, and I said yes. I worked 80-hour weeks, researched, designed, revised, presented. They loved it. Paid me $3,000. I cried when the payment cleared, not from joy, from relief, proof that I could do this, that I wasn't the failure everyone assumed. Word spread. Startups talked to other startups. My name got passed around, more projects came, I raised my rates, hired a part-time assistant, a college student named Maya who needed experience. We worked from coffee shops and my tiny apartment, building something. Slowly, I started a blog, shared design tips, process videos. It grew, not viral, just steady. People commented, asked questions, I answered, built a community, something I'd never had in real life I found online. Connection without blood, support without obligation. A year after leaving, I registered my business officially. Sofia Martinez Design Studio. It sounded official, professional, real. I designed my own logo, something simple, clean, a geometric S. It felt like planting a flag, claiming space. I opened a business bank account. Got business cards, attended networking events. Introduced myself with confidence. I had to fake at first, but eventually became real. I was someone now, not someone's disappointing daughter, not someone's forgotten sister, just someone building, growing, existing on my own terms. I didn't talk to Mom much. She called occasionally, asked surface questions. How was I? Was I eating? Did I need money? I always said I was fine. She never asked about my work. Never asked what I was building. The conversations were short, polite, empty. Victoria never called, not once. I saw her life on social media. Promotions, vacations, anniversaries, perfect photos, perfect captions. I stopped following her after a few months. It was easier that way, out of sight, out of hurt. Sometimes I wondered if they noticed I was gone, really noticed, or if I'd just faded into a comfortable absence. The daughter who moved away, the sister who got busy. Easy explanations, no confrontation, no mess. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe I'd done everyone a favor by leaving. That thought strung less over time. Eventually it just became fact. We were related by blood but not by choice, and I chose differently now. My business grew. I hired 2 more people, rented a small office, nothing fancy, just 3 desks and good Wi-Fi. But it was ours. We had regular clients, retainer agreements, steady income. I paid myself a real salary. Modest but enough to save, to breathe, to plan ahead. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't drowning. For the first time in my life, money didn't feel like panic. It felt like possibility. 18 months after leaving, something unexpected happened. A journalist reached out. She was writing an article about women entrepreneurs who'd built businesses from nothing. Someone had recommended me. We did a phone interview. I told her my story. Not all of it, not the wedding, just the broad strokes. Left school, worked dead-end job, taught myself design, started freelancing, built a business. She asked good questions. I gave honest answers. A week later, she sent me the draft. It was fair, accurate, kind even. She framed me as resilient, a self-starter. Someone who turned obstacles into opportunities. The article published in a regional business magazine. Online and print, my photo was on the cover, professional headshot I'd paid for at a local studio. I wore a blazer. Smiled confidently. The headline read, "From call center to creative director, Sofia Martinez's journey to building her own design studio." I stared at it for a long time. That was me, my name, my story, my face, not hidden, not dismissed, featured. The article went semi-viral. Local viral anyway, shares on LinkedIn, comments, messages. People I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. Congratulations, inspiration, offers to connect. It was overwhelming, validating, terrifying. I didn't know how to hold that much visibility. I'd spent so long invisible. But Maya helped. My small team celebrated. We ordered pizza, toasted with cheap champagne, laughed until our stomachs hurt. That night alone in my apartment, I reread the article, and I let myself feel proud. Actually proud, not guilty proud, not qualified proud, just proud. The next morning my phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello, Sofia." Mom's voice shaky. I saw the article. Silence. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know you were doing all this, building a business, hiring people. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked. More silence, heavier. "Can we talk in person?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say no, to protect the peace I'd built. But another part, smaller but persistent, wanted to hear what she'd say. "When?" "This weekend. I can drive to you." We set a date. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, heart racing. I didn't know what to expect. Apology, excuses, more disappointment. I called my therapist. Yes, I'd started therapy. One of the first things I'd done with stable income. We talked through it. She reminded me I could set boundaries. I could leave if it got bad. I could protect myself now. I had the tools. I repeated that like a mantra all week. Saturday came. We met at a quiet cafe. Mom arrived first. I saw her through the window before going in. She looked older, thinner, tired. I almost felt bad, almost. I walked in, she stood, we didn't hug, just sat down across from each other. Ordered coffee, small talk, weather, traffic, then silence. I read the article 3 times, she finally said. I showed it to everyone. I'm proud of you, Sofia. I waited, there had to be more. No, I wasn't, I haven't been fair to you. Her voice cracked. After your father died, everything was so hard. And Victoria, she was just easier. She didn't remind me of him. You do, your stubbornness, your questions. It was like having him there and I couldn't handle it. My chest tightened. So you pushed me away. I didn't mean to. You did. I kept my voice steady. At the wedding. You told me I wasn't immediate family. Do you remember that? She flinched, looked down. I do. That's when I knew it wasn't just in my head. You really didn't see me, so I left and I built this. I gestured vaguely, meaning everything, my life, my business, myself. Without you, I had to. Tears ran down her face. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. We sat there a long time, talking, crying, not fixing everything. You can't fix years in one conversation, but starting. She told me things I'd never known. How scared she'd been when Dad got sick. How she didn't know how to be strong for both of us. How she leaned on Victoria because Victoria didn't need as much. How wrong that was. How she saw it now. Too late, but she saw it. I told her what it felt like, being invisible, being erased, being the daughter who didn't count. She listened, really listened, not defending, not explaining away, just listening. It hurt for both of us, but it was honest. Finally honest. We didn't leave that cafe as a fixed family, but we left as 2 people who told the truth. That was something. Over the next months we talked more, phone calls, video chats, slowly rebuilding, not what we were, something different. She asked about my work, listened to my stories, celebrated my wins, small steps, careful steps. I didn't forgive everything. Forgiveness wasn't a light switch, but I stopped carrying all the anger, it was too heavy. And I had other things to build. Victoria reached out eventually. Awkward message on Instagram. Saw your article, congrats, I replied with thanks. We messaged back and forth, surface stuff. She apologized, said she didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't know if I believed her, but I accepted it, not for her, for me. So I could move on without the weight of her ignorance holding me back. 2 years after walking out of that wedding, my business hit $500,000 in annual revenue. We moved to a bigger office, hired 3 more people, took on national clients. I got invited to speak at conferences about entrepreneurship, design, building from nothing. I told my story, the real one, including the wedding, the rejection, the walkout. People responded, not with pity, with recognition. So many people had their own versions, different details, same pain. We weren't alone. None of us were. I started mentoring young designers, especially ones from backgrounds like mine, the overlooked ones, the ones told they weren't enough. I gave them what nobody gave me. Belief, resources, honest feedback, space to grow. Watching them succeed felt better than any client win. It felt like changing the pattern, breaking the cycle, building something that outlasted me. My relationship with Mom improved. Slowly, we'd never be what I wished we were, but we were something real, honest, flawed but trying. She came to visit my office once, met my team, saw what I'd built, cried in the bathroom. I found her after. We didn't say much, just stood there. 2 people learning how to be family differently. Victoria and I stayed distant. Polite, we'd never be close, too much water under that bridge, but we weren't enemies. Just 2 people who shared DNA and not much else. I made peace with that. Not everyone gets a sister they're close to. That was okay. I had my team, my community, my chosen family. That was enough. 24 now, when people ask about that wedding, I tell them the truth. That was the night everything changed. Not because they rejected me, because I stopped rejecting myself. I stopped waiting for permission to matter, stopped begging for space at tables that didn't want me. I walked out and found my own table. Built it myself, invited people who saw me, who valued me, who chose me, and I chose them back. The girl who sat alone at table 14 would be proud of who I became, not because of money or success, because I learned to take up space, to believe my voice mattered, to build a life that felt like mine. That's the real win, not the business, not the articles, not the recognition. The win was learning I didn't need their approval to be whole. I was already whole, they just couldn't see it. Sometimes I drive past that estate, the one where the wedding happened. It looks smaller now, less intimidating, just a building, just a place. The power it had over me is gone. I took it back. Slowly, painfully, but I took it back. And now when I see venues like that, I don't see exclusion. I see a chapter, one chapter in a much longer story. A story I'm writing myself, with my own hands, my own voice, my own terms. 25. Walking away wasn't losing. It was the only way to win, to find my real place, not in a family that couldn't see me, but in a life I built brick by brick, with people who chose to see me, who celebrated me, who made room without being asked. I don't regret leaving. I regret not leaving sooner, but timing is funny. Maybe I needed that final push, that clear, undeniable moment of rejection, to stop making excuses, to stop hoping things would change, to realize I had to be the change. If I could go back, I wouldn't change that wedding. I do thank my younger brother for having the courage to walk out, for trusting that gut feeling that said this isn't right, for choosing herself when nobody else did. That moment in the parking lot, standing under the moon, making the decision to leave, that was when my real life started. Everything before was rehearsal. Everything after was the actual show. My business continues growing. We're working on expanding, maybe franchising the model, teaching other designers how to build sustainable creative businesses. I'm writing a book about it, not a memoir, a guide, practical steps, resources, the handbook I wish I'd had. It's scary putting myself out there like that, but also necessary. If my story helps even one person leave their own metaphorical table 14, it's worth it. I still have hard days, moments when the old wounds ache, when I see families that work, that love easily, that include everyone without thinking about it. It stings, reminds me what I didn't get. But those moments are shorter now, less sharp, because I've built something else, something different, something mine, and that's not a consolation prize, it's the actual prize: freedom. Authenticity. A life that fits. Epilogue. Last month Victoria had a baby, a girl. Mom called to tell me, asked if I wanted to visit. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep the distance, protect the peace, but another part, the part that's done enough healing to be curious, said yes. I drove back. 3 hours, the same roads I'd driven that wedding night, but everything looked different. Or maybe I looked different. I arrived at the hospital with a gift. Simple, a children's book about a girl who builds her own castle. I walked into the room. Victoria was in bed holding this tiny human, Marcus beside her, Mom in a chair. They all looked up when I entered. Sofia, Victoria said softly. You came. I came. She gestured me closer. I approached, looked down at my niece. She was perfect, tiny fingers, closed eyes, completely unaware of all the complicated history in this room. Her name is Elena, Victoria said. Do you want to hold her? I hesitated, then nodded. Victoria carefully transferred her to my arms. She was so light, so fragile. I looked at her little face and felt something unexpected. Not bitterness, not resentment, just hope. Hope that she'd grow up in a family that saw her, that made room for her, that never made her feel like she didn't belong. She's beautiful, I whispered. Thank you for coming, Victoria said. I know things have been. I know I wasn't there for you when you needed me. I'm sorry. I looked up, met her eyes, saw something real there. Not full understanding, not complete awareness of all the pain, but genuine regret. It wasn't everything, but it was something. I appreciate that, I said. We didn't fix years of damage in that hospital room, but we were honest. We were present, we were trying. That's all anyone can really do. Try, show up, be willing to see each other even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. Even when you failed before. I stayed for an hour, held Elena, made small talk. It wasn't perfect, it was real. When I left, Mom walked me to my car. I'm glad you came, she said. Me too. Your father would be proud of you, of everything you've built. My throat tightened. You think so? I know so. I should have said it sooner, should have seen it sooner. But I'm saying it now. You're remarkable, Sofia. You always were. I just couldn't see it through my own pain. We hugged. Brief, awkward, but genuine. I drove home with tears running down my face. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just release. Letting go of what was, making space for what could be. We'd never be a perfect family, but maybe we could be an honest one. Maybe that was enough. Now, sitting in my office looking at my team working, my business thriving, my life full in ways I'd never imagined, I realized something important. That wedding didn't break me, it freed me. By making the rejection so clear, so undeniable, it forced me to stop waiting, stop hopping for crumbs, stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never meant for me. It pushed me out of the nest. Painful, terrifying, necessary. I built wings on the way down, learned to fly by falling, and now I'm soaring in skis I never knew existed. Not because I'm special, not because I'm lucky, because I chose myself when nobody else would, because I walked out of that reception hall and into my own life, because I stopped letting other people's limitations define my possibilities. So yes, at my sister's wedding, Mom said I didn't belong there. And you know what? She was right. I didn't belong there. I belonged somewhere bigger, somewhere I could breathe, somewhere I could build, somewhere I could be fully, completely, unapologetically myself. And I found it, not by staying, by leaving, by having the courage to choose me. That's my story. Not about revenge, not about proving anyone wrong, about proving myself right, about trusting that voice inside that says you deserve more, about building a life that matches your worth instead of waiting for others to recognize it, about walking away from tables that don't feed you and growing your own damn garden. If you're sitting at your own table 14 right now, invisible in your own family, overlooked in your own story, hear me, you belong, just not there, somewhere else, somewhere better, somewhere you'll have to build yourself, and it will be hard, it will be scary, you'll question everything, but you'll also discover you're stronger than you knew, braver than they told you, more capable than anyone gave you credit for. Walk out, build something, change everything, not for them, for you. Because you deserve a life where you're not begging for crumbs, where you're not grateful just to be remembered, where you're celebrated, not tolerated, where you matter, fully, completely, without question. That life exists, but only if you're brave enough to walk away from the one that doesn't fit. I did, you can too, and on the other side, freedom, purpose, peace, and a table of your own where everyone has a seat and nobody sits alone in the corner hopping to be seen. That's worth everything. That's worth walking out for, that's worth changing everything for, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.